एकम् अक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् अहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तथ भावशुद्धिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भाव कोऽहं भावयुत कुतो वरधिय दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं Namo Ramana. In this Thursday Satsang from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, it has been our practice to select two verses from the work Guruvachika Kovai, written by Muruganar Swamigal. One could say composed, as these are all verses composed by Muruganar Swamigal. The verse selection is done randomly by Revatima. Each verse is read, followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that is followed by the practice of self-enquiry for about 15 minutes. After these two segments of verse reading, meditation on meaning, and practice of self-enquiry are completed, there will be summing up remarks by Venkatesh Deshpande ji. and that will be followed by the offering of Sri Ramana Stotram. The chanting will be by Vaibhavji and Pratnama online, and the rest of us can practice holding the self by inquiring who is the listener, who is the listener of the Ashtotram. And the satsang would conclude after that. We begin by taking the first verse selected for us, verse number 841. This seems to be under the subheading the collective mind. 841. The practice of labeling the mind as either good or bad. The practice of labeling the mind either as good or bad, only based on the auspicious or inauspicious vasanas that dominate it. I'll read that. The practice of labeling a mind as good or as either good or bad is only based on the auspicious or inauspicious vasanas that dominate it. But if you should know that the mind that conducts itself in two different ways, good and bad, is only one mind to those who know it as it really is. But you should know that the mind that conducts itself in two different ways, good and bad, is only one mind to those who know as it really is. You might be wondering why I am smiling. The smile is because usually the thread of the enquiry will run from one satsang to another, that there won't be any difference in the matter inquired into. But today we had finished the earlier satsang exactly on this very thought, that how the entire creation or mind is divided into good or bad, that it could be either the creation of a good being or the creation of a bad being. This is the exact inquiry that Rene Descartes makes, that we don't know. And we have both the sampradayas here. That one sampradaya says that it is all Dvaitam, that the world is full of the bliss of Ishvara. And another sampradaya says that the world is sorrow, unreal, and Jadam, and it is a product of Maya. So we have both the sampradayas here to come to the truth. Descartes has put it that the whole world could be the creation of an evil mind or the creation of a good mind. However, it is I who think like this, that the whole world could be the creation of a good mind or the creation of an evil mind. But I am the thinker. I exist. Whether the world exists with good shading or world exists with bad shading or not, it is an objective perception. And whether the perception is shaded with good or bad doesn't matter. What is the truth? The truth is that I have to be there. So that I, which is the source of both the whole good and wholly bad creation, doesn't really matter what it is, because in the pure I, the good and the bad also does not exist. And that is exactly the same verse we have been selected randomly to read by Revati Ma'am. That we used to always wonder how these satsang are all standing connected, but this is simply incredibly so, as though it's one thread going. That this verse is about the collective mind, and this is something that most of us get. And on behalf of us, Chadwick asks, so the most of us, all that is put together in one Chadwick. Chadwick asks on our behalf that are all these individual experiences not created by the collective mind? And Bhagavan simply says, for whom is this thought that there is a collective mind and there is an individual mind? So that there is a collective mind and there is an individual mind, there is a self behind that, isn't it? Bhagavan says, hold that self which is self-attentive. That is exactly the import of this verse, but with one additional information as to why Bhagavan gives this instruction. That he says, when we were referring to that in the earlier satsang, we couldn't go through the footnote. The footnote was that Bhagavan says, Descartes is saying that I think, therefore I am, is completely not required. That each one of us is aware of our existence directly. It is aparoksha. That each one of us, all we need to be asked is, do you exist or not? Each one will say yes. And that is aparoksha. It is direct. You don't need the world. You don't need the good or the bad. You don't need a thought to know that you exist. Then what is the connection? That is where the verse connects that really the good mind and the bad mind are a product of suvasana and kuvasana. That there is the karana sharira, which Descartes doesn't go into. The karana sharira is self-ignorance. All the vasanas present in self-ignorance, the whole creation present as vasanas in the self-creation, self-ignorance. That is where Bhagavan gives this clue, that how he is able to directly tell us without even the support of thought. That thought itself arises because of the ajnana of self-ignorance. And when you ask, do you exist or not, you are already attacking the self-ignorance. Even though relatively, by asking that person, do you know your existence or not, then you are turning that person who is so occupied with so many other things to something that is innate to them. That nobody, including Ishvara, needs to give this. Nobody, including Ishvara, can take away this. That is how Ishvara has designed creation. Because he has Nikamara Nirendirupu. He is present without any gap. So, in the creation, Ishvara himself cannot deny your existence. Ishvara himself doesn't need as an outside entity to give you existence. He gives existence by being Adhara, by being substrate, by being the self of all. Such is the greatness of the creation that your existence cannot be taken away by any force. And the Sadguru comes and says, see, the whole mind, which you say collective mind, individual mind, it is all there as good mind and bad mind only from the vasanas that are substrating. And the vasanas are arising for you. Therefore, that really the creation or the mind is not divided as good or bad. The self alone is. That the whole mind is one is only a misnomer. That the self alone is there is the reality. This can also be reached in another way. See, when you study Carl Jung's teachings, he says that we cast the shadow of good and bad on the world. That from Descartes comes to the point that the self casts the shadow of good and bad on the world, and we have to reintegrate all those good and bad selves into ourselves. We only cast, no, so we should take it back. So there comes this shadow integration in him. There the problem comes that is Hitler also me? That the whole of Hitler's badness, the non-compassionate part, is it also me only? And I have to integrate it. And the Jordan Peterson, another modern psychologist, he says that is where Jung's teachings becomes very difficult. That how can such a bad person be me? That is where Bhagavan's teaching purifies. That in the pure eye, you are everything, but not as the good person or bad person, because the personas all vanish into non-existence. The world vanishes into non-existence. The very concept of good and bad vanish into non-existence, along with self-ignorance, along with Maya. They all vanish, and the pure I alone is there. You are everything, but not as all put together, that Hitler plus Gandhiji plus this plus that. Not like that. The pure I is everything, but without the upadhis, without the feeling that there is something good there is something bad. All these are vanquished from existence when the self-knowledge appears. When the self-ignorance, which contains the vasanas, which appear as the good and the bad, which divide the mind into two, and which manifest as good actions and bad actions, give value in the world where really value is not there, all that is retracted and merged into the self, where even this thought that I think, therefore I am, is not required. Everyone knows that they exist themselves directly. Ask them to hold that. Just hold this to reality. That whenever other things come and say, hey, you exist because of me, the house comes and says, hey, you exist because of me. The family comes and says, the country comes and says, the language comes and says, the world comes and says, the good heavens come and say, the hell comes and threatens. And because of that threat, you come into existence. Bhagavan has told us that you exist independent of all this. And hold that reality in self-enquiry till the self-luminous self reveals itself. That is the beauty of Bhagavan's teachings. Let's practice Atma Ucharam for the next 15 minutes. Ujjwalji can set the time for us. Thank you so much, sir.
Shri Ramanaya.
We continue by going to the second verse selected for us. Verse number 950. 950. If a person subsides in the eternal Shivam, that is his own Swarupa, as wholly that Swarupa, with no activity of his own, he will then become the one who has already finished doing everything, and having nothing further to do, he will attain the bliss of peace. If a person subsides in the eternal Shiva, that is his own Swarupa, as wholly that Swarupa, with no activity of his own, he will then become the one who has already finished doing everything, and having nothing further to do, he will attain the bliss of peace. Is there somebody raising a hand, or is it just a mistake? Okay, I'll continue. This is the 15th verse of Upadesha Saram. Okay. That ekachintana nashameteta nashtamanaso utkrishta yogina krityamasti kim swastitim yataha. That is, Shiva is the existence consciousness. Bhagavan says in Arunachala Ashtakam that Arunachala is the Irundulir, is the existence consciousness. And Bhagavan has taught us that by turning and asking, do you exist or not? And making us directly know that we exist, though now that knowledge once again gets clouded by so many false supports. He alerts us to that. And Bhagavan says that pure existence consciousness, which is free of all other supports, is Arunachala, is Shiva. And when we reach that Shivam and merge the ego in that, and the Shivam is experienced as Shivam, our own Swarupa. What does that mean? Shivam is both the Adhara for the sadhana and is independent of the world. So the Satchitta, this Purana, is the Adhara for sadhana. So as we are going and erasing our impurities, so-called impurities, which are actually Ajnana, which are present as Vasanas, the existence consciousness is the prime doer. Though we feel we are doing sadhana, the real eraser is the existence consciousness, is Arunachala. But we have to do our part because we have the feeling of the doing other things. And we feel that we have not done this, we have not done that duty is pending, this duty is pending. Therefore, there is always discontent. There is always a feeling that I have not completed all my duties. But when we exist as the existence consciousness, which we saw in the previous verse, is beyond the world, beyond the good and bad mind. So the world has gone into non-existence. The good and bad mind, collective mind, has gone into non-existence. Only the Satchit Swarupam is there. Krityamastikim swastitim yataha. That swastitim is the Swarupa, is Shivam, existence consciousness. It is Ulla Porul, Ulla Unaru. That you can experience directly and completely only by being the Swarupa, by being Shivam. So now, what was used as sadhana, now the sadhana has completely erased the sadhaka. And one is now experiencing this Purana as this Purana, then there is nothing else to do. In this Purana, there is no seeing of another, there is no knowing of another. There is only I. When nobody else is seen, nothing else is seen, nothing else is known, then what is there to do? The doing come only once the other is seen, other is known. In the Swaswarupa, the Shiva Swarupa, there is no other. So one is completely free of all doing. Krityamastikim, and all that has to be done has been completed. Therefore, there is the Akanda Ananda. There is nothing to be done anymore. There is only the bliss supreme of the Satchit. The existence consciousness is the Akanda Ananda, is the Anburu. And this Anburu has integrated us all. Whenever we feel different from the other, the father feels different from the son, the mother feels different from the child, the mother feels different from the father. But all this is now integrated as one in the real father and mother who are one. Anburu is said to be mother and Arivuru is said to be father. Anbum, Arivum, Ondrai irupadu Shivam. That is the Tattvam of Ardhanarishwara. That Shivam is this Purana where the Anbu and Arivu have come together and shine as I. In that fullness of Akanda Ananda, there is nothing to do except by being in this bliss. And unless you have this bliss, unless you are this bliss, how are you going to make somebody else Ananda? You will only be misleading them to make them go and meet the better lawyer and better doctor. So it is of primary importance to remove the Ajnana and come to the Shiva Swarupam, merge with it, and be in that position of nothing to do. Unless you have this, unless you are that, what is the use of you to others? You are going to mislead them into something else. Therefore, you see the primary importance of coming and merging in the Shivam, in being one in the Akanda Ananda, where there is only the bliss of Purna Anburu. Anburu Unilanai Anbakaraitaru. With loving practice of Atma Vicharam, one comes to this Satchit, the existence consciousness, which is Akanda Ananda. And that Akanda Ananda, when you remain as the Akanda Ananda and keep quiet, that Akanda Ananda itself is Akanda Chit. And that itself is Akanda Sat, where the Ananda and Chit are all only one in the Sat. And that is where the Atma Vicharam unerringly, without any deflection, takes us there. And that is what we are going to practice for the next 15 minutes or so. Ujjwalji, we will trouble you again for the time.
No problem. I will keep the time.
Thank you, sir.
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. I request Venkatesh ji to give us the summing up remarks. Namo Ramana, sir.
Namo Ramana. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Dhyanamoolam Gurur Murtihi, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripaha. Imagine you have a mirror which has not been used for a long time. What happens? It becomes very dirty. Then what do if you get that mirror? What you do is the cleansing process, the cleaning process. So the whole spiritual life is like this cleaning process. Antakarana Shuddhi. This middle layer, it's like a phantom. This mind is like a phantom between the Jada body and the Chaitanya. In between these two is this mind. And it says all the time, it says, go out. It does not allow you to go inwards. So you're not able to experience the Chaitanya. So what happens? The whole process of spiritualism is to clean. So if you clean the mirror, what happens? When you see yourself in the mirror, then you are able to see yourself more clearly. Earlier you couldn't see yourself. Now you're at least physically being able to see yourself. But then what happens? Say you're going out for a party or going for a. If there are some good thoughts come when you look at yourself in the mirror, you think you're a happy soul at that point of time. And similarly, if you have bad thoughts going on, you're going to a party which you don't like, but you're forced to go for that party, then what happens? Bad thoughts within. You look in the mirror, then what happens? It seems like, everything is horrible. So mirror is just actually projecting. That's all. It's just telling who you are. But look at the third situation. Let's look at that beautiful situation when you're in the home position. When you're in the home position means you're not wandering around. The sutta removal is not happening. You're not going out. And you are in the home position, means you're at home. Do you see yourself in the mirror? No. There are no thoughts, there are no bad thoughts, there are no good thoughts. You don't see yourself in the mirror. Just by being quiet, by not being in this mode of going outside, what happens? The mind becomes quiet. This middle layer between the Jada and Chaitanya, then you are what are you experiencing? You are experiencing the stillness. Why are you happy at home? Oh, I'm going home. What is this home position? This home position is nothing that but the mind has gone quiet. And when the mind goes quiet, what happens? We experience the self. We experience the happiness. We experience the joy. What is this? This is our nature. We have forgotten who we are. We think we are the snake, but we have forgotten we are the rope. All this mind does is a superimposition and says out there, oh, you're looking happy, you're looking sad in the mirror. That's what it is saying. But actually, you are the Chaitanya. You are that happiness. And it's just that when you are in the home position, when you are at home, it means when the mind is quiet, you are in bliss. So the trick about all sadhana is this, is stop going all around and believing there's something out there. And if you quieten the mind and be within, and that's why self-enquiry is so crucial to really understand whether these thoughts are real or not, then what happens? You're constantly in touch with your home position. And when you are at the home position, you are absolutely at peace. And when you are in peace, you are in bliss. That's when you are with God. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana.
Thank you, Ramesh ji. It was wonderful. Thank you, Venkatesh ji. May I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to lead us in the chanting of Atma Vichar, lead us in the chanting of Sri Ramana Stotram. Namo Ramana.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रम् भुवनं समस्तम् गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेन महोंशेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः ॐ महौजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः ॐ तीव्राय नमः ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ॐ तपोमयाय नमः ॐ उदासीनाय नमः ॐ महायोगिने नमः ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः ॐ कुशाग्रदिये नमः ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः ॐ सवित्रे नमः ॐ स्थिराय नमः ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः ॐ चूडिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः
This is
ॐ
first release.
वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः ॐ विराजदचलाकृतये नमः ॐ उद्दिक्तनयनाय नमः ॐ पूर्णाय नमः ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः ॐ गम्भीराय नमः ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः ॐ धीराय नमः ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः ॐ स्वराजे नमः ॐ महर्षये नमः ॐ भगवते नमः ॐ ईड्याय नमः ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः ॐ विमलाय नमः ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः ॐ आप्ताय नमः ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः ॐ समदृशे नमः ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः ॐ सत्याय नमः ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः ॐ श्री शोणाचलऋद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिह्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋचान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शूद्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणभगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याशनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशास्तादात्म्यभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नमः इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
नमो रमणा वैभव जी प्रार्थना में, नमो रमणा वेंकटेश जी, नमो रमणा उज्जवल जी, नमो रमणा टू ऑल।